Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, we stand on the edge of uncertainty. The world has always been a place of change, of trials, and of challenges that test the spirit of those who walk in faith. What lies beyond March 2025 is not for us to control, but it is for us to prepare. Uncertainty is the very nature of life. It is neither a punishment nor a flaw in existence, but an unchangeable truth that governs all things. No one can predict the exact course of tomorrow, nor can they shape the future with absolute certainty. The world moves forward regardless of our desires, and no amount of preparation can remove all doubt about what comes next. This is not a cause for despair, rather, it is an invitation to cultivate resilience and wisdom. The human mind craves stability, seeking patterns and assurances where none truly exist. It builds walls of prediction and expectation, only to watch them crumble under the weight of reality. Despite history showing time and time again that the unexpected is inevitable, people persist in believing that control is possible. But the wise do not fight against the tide. They recognize that uncertainty is not an enemy but an ever-present companion. Those who accept this live with greater peace, while those who resist it find themselves trapped in fear and anxiety. For centuries, people have sought to eliminate uncertainty through knowledge, power, or faith in systems they believe to be unshakable. Kingdoms have risen and fallen, economies have flourished and collapsed, and even the strongest individuals have seen their fortunes change in the blink of an eye. The illusion of stability is temporary. Even now, as people look toward the future, some predict triumph while others fear disaster. Yet neither group knows the truth of what lies ahead. The wise do not claim to foresee the future, but instead prepare themselves for all possibilities. It is often in moments of great uncertainty that people's true nature is revealed. Some crumble under the weight of doubt, paralyzed by the fear of what might happen. They ask endless questions: what if I fail? What if I suffer? What if everything I have worked for is taken away? These questions, though natural, offer no answers. They only serve to deepen the feeling of helplessness. The person who constantly seeks reassurance from the world will find little comfort, for the world itself is uncertain. In contrast, those who embrace uncertainty recognize it as the fundamental condition of life. They do not waste energy resisting it. Instead, they prepare themselves mentally and emotionally for whatever may come. They do not demand that the world remain unchanged for their sake, but rather focus on strengthening their ability to endure change. Their peace does not come from knowing what the future holds, but from knowing that they can withstand whatever the future brings. Some believe that faith or belief in a higher power removes uncertainty, but even the most devout must acknowledge that they do not control what happens next. Faith does not eliminate unpredictability, it simply changes the way one approaches it. Whether one relies on divine guidance or inner strength, the fact remains that the future is unknown. Even the most righteous and prepared individuals have faced trials they never expected. The question, then, is not whether uncertainty exists, but how one chooses to live with it. Fear is the natural response to uncertainty, but fear itself is rarely helpful. Fear clouds judgment, leading people to make rash decisions or to avoid action altogether. It magnifies problems that have not yet arisen, making them appear larger than they truly are. A person who fears uncertainty too much may hesitate when they should act, or they may waste their days worrying about things that never come to pass. Fear of the unknown steals the present moment, replacing it with endless speculation about the future. But this is a trap. The only true way to prepare for an uncertain future is to strengthen oneself in the present. Some may argue that preparation eliminates uncertainty, but this is not true. Preparation can reduce risk, but it cannot guarantee an outcome. A warrior may sharpen his sword, but he cannot control the battlefield. A farmer may plant his crops, but he cannot control the weather. A leader may plan for every possibility, yet still be caught off guard by events beyond his control. Preparation is wise, but it is not a promise of certainty. It is simply a means of increasing one's ability to handle the unpredictable. The world itself is built on change. Seasons shift, empires rise and fall, and the lives of individuals turn in directions they never anticipated. Those who cling too tightly to the illusion of control suffer most when reality does not conform to their expectations. They resist change, becoming bitter and disillusioned when things do not go as planned. But the wise understand that change is neither good nor bad, it simply is. They do not lament what they cannot control. They focus instead on mastering their own responses. To live well in a world of uncertainty, one must cultivate adaptability. A rigid mind breaks under pressure, but a flexible one bends and survives. This does not mean abandoning values or principles, but rather learning to apply them in different circumstances. Those who remain adaptable do not fear the unknown, because they trust in their ability to navigate it. They do not demand that life follow a specific path. They are willing to walk whatever road appears before them. There will always be those who claim to know what the future holds. Some will predict disaster, some seek to instill fear in others. Others will promise prosperity, offering false security. But neither group truly knows. Those who live wisely do not waste time chasing predictions. They understand that no one, no matter how powerful or knowledgeable, can promise certainty. Instead of looking for answers where there are none, they focus on what is within their control, their own thoughts, actions and responses. Even in the face of great uncertainty, there is one constant: the strength of character that each individual cultivates within themselves. External events may change, but inner resilience remains. Those who build themselves to withstand hardship will not be shaken when it arrives. Those who learn to let go of fear will not be controlled by it. Those who accept the unknown will find freedom in it. Life will never provide absolute certainty. There will always be questions without answers, paths without clear destinations, and moments of doubt. But those who understand this truth do not live in fear. They do not demand guarantees from life. They live with purpose, prepare for what they can, and let go of what they cannot control. In doing so, they achieve not certainty, but something far greater: peace. Fear is one of the greatest obstacles to a life of strength, clarity, and purpose. It is a force that creeps into the mind, distorts reality, and paralyzes action. It whispers of dangers that may never come, magnifies small troubles into overwhelming burdens, and convinces people that they are weaker than they truly are. If left unchecked, fear controls thoughts, dictates decisions, and keeps individuals from living fully. It is a burden that must be overcome, not by avoiding or suppressing it, but by understanding its nature and refusing to be ruled by it. At its core, fear is a natural response to the unknown. It arises when the future is uncertain, when danger seems near, or when loss appears inevitable. It is not inherently harmful. In some cases, fear has its purpose. It alerts the mind to potential threats, forcing a person to consider their actions carefully. But more often than not, fear is excessive. It imagines threats where none exist, it overestimates risks, and it leads people to hesitate when they should act. Most fears do not arise from real, immediate danger, but from the possibility of suffering, failure, or rejection. These fears are illusions, built on thoughts rather than reality, and they must not be allowed to dictate the course of life. Fear weakens the mind. It turns people inward, making them anxious, hesitant, and overly cautious. It leads to avoidance of challenges, of opportunities, of experiences that might lead to growth. The person who fears failure will not try. The person who fears rejection will not speak. The person who fears loss will cling too tightly, suffocating what they hope to preserve. In all these cases, fear does not protect, it destroys. It traps people in a cycle of hesitation, robbing them of the very things they wish to safeguard. There is no avoiding fear entirely. No person, no matter how wise or strong, is completely free from it. But the difference between the weak and the strong is in how they respond. The weak allow fear to guide them. They retreat when they should advance, choosing comfort over growth. The strong recognize fear for what it is: an emotion, a passing thought, not an absolute truth. They do not deny fear, nor do they seek to eliminate it completely, for that would be impossible. Instead, they face it, question it, and refuse to be controlled by it. Fear thrives in the unknown. It grows in the absence of understanding, feeding on doubt and speculation. This is why knowledge is one of the most powerful weapons against fear. When a person seeks to understand what they fear, they strip it of its power. The unknown becomes known, the imagined becomes real, and real things can be faced. Many fears shrink under close examination. A challenge that once seemed impossible reveals itself to be manageable. A risk that once felt overwhelming turns out to be far less dangerous than imagined. Another way to overcome fear is through action. Fear often paralyzes, making a person feel stuck, helpless, unable to move forward. But the only true way to defeat fear is to do the very thing it warns against. Action shatters fear's hold. A person who fears speaking in public must speak. A person who fears confrontation must confront. A person who fears uncertainty must step forward into the unknown. The moment fear is met with direct action, it begins to lose its grip. Even if the action is small, even if it is imperfect, it proves that fear is not absolute. Each step taken in defiance of fear makes the next step easier. There is also a deeper truth: many of the things people fear are not as terrible as they imagine. Failure is often temporary. Rejection is rarely final. Loss, though painful, is part of life and can be endured. People survive hardships they once thought unbearable. They lose, they suffer, they struggle, but they continue. When looking back, they often see that what they feared most did not destroy them. It is fear itself that causes the most harm, not the event that was feared. Fear is deceptive. It makes problems seem larger than they are. It suggests that pain will last forever, that failure is the end, that suffering is unbearable. But these are lies. Pain fades, failure teaches, and suffering is not endless. The wise do not believe fear's illusions. They recognize that hardship is part of life, but they also recognize their own strength. They remind themselves that they have endured before and will endure again. Even in the face of real danger, fear is not helpful. It clouds judgment, leading to poor decisions. A fearful mind is chaotic, jumping from one worry to another, unable to think clearly. But a calm mind, even in crisis, is powerful. It sees solutions where others see only problems. It remains steady while others panic. It does not waste energy on fear, it directs energy toward action. The strongest individuals are not those who feel no fear, but those who remain composed despite it. Ultimately, fear must be mastered, not by eliminating it, but by refusing to let it rule. It must be met with understanding, with action, and with the knowledge that most fears are illusions. Even in times of great uncertainty, fear serves no purpose beyond what is necessary for caution. Life is not meant to be lived in avoidance, in hesitation, in endless worry. It is meant to be lived fully, with courage, with resilience, and with the understanding that whatever happens, one has the strength to endure it. Hardship is an inevitable part of life. No one walks through this world without facing struggle, loss, disappointment, or pain. It comes in many forms: physical suffering, emotional wounds, financial troubles, rejection, failure, or even the burden of uncertainty. Yet, despite its many appearances, hardship carries the same fundamental truth. It is not meant to break those who endure it, but to test them, shape them, and reveal their true strength. It is not a final defeat, but an opportunity for growth, resilience, and transformation. The mistake many make is to see hardship as purely negative, as something to be avoided at all costs. They believe that difficulty means something has gone wrong, that suffering is unfair, and that struggles are a sign of weakness or misfortune. This perspective only deepens suffering, turning temporary pain into a lifelong burden. Those who view hardship as an injustice waste their energy resisting it, complaining about it, or feeling sorry for themselves. But suffering does not discriminate. It comes to all people, regardless of status, belief, or preparation. What matters is not whether one experiences hardship, but how one responds to it. Hardship is a test, not in the sense that it must be won or lost, but in the sense that it reveals a person's character. When everything is easy, when success is smooth and uninterrupted, it is impossible to know the true strength of a person. But when hardship arrives, when things do not go as planned, when dreams collapse, when pain strikes unexpectedly, it becomes clear who is truly resilient. Some people will crumble, allowing difficulty to define them, using it as an excuse to give up or sink into despair. Others will endure, not because they are immune to suffering, but because they understand that hardship is a necessary part of growth. Pain, struggle, and failure refine a person. Just as fire purifies metal, hardship burns away weakness, illusions, and false expectations. It forces individuals to confront themselves, to question their priorities, and to decide whether they will rise or fall. A person who has never known hardship is untested, fragile, and unprepared for life's inevitable difficulties. But one who has suffered, who has faced adversity and overcome it, carries a strength that cannot be taken away. They learn that their limits are not where they once thought they were. They realize that pain is temporary, that failure is not the end, and that suffering can be endured. There is no growth without hardship. Every great achievement, every story of resilience, every act of true strength is built on a foundation of struggle. A person who wishes to become strong must be willing to endure discomfort. A person who wants wisdom must be willing to learn through difficulty. A person who seeks purpose must be willing to face trials. Hardship forces a person to develop patience, endurance, and a deeper understanding of themselves. It teaches humility, because it reminds people that they are not invincible. It teaches gratitude, because it makes them appreciate the moments of peace. It teaches discipline, because it requires persistence. Some may argue that hardship is unfair, that suffering should not exist, that life should be without struggle. But this is an illusion. A life without hardship would be a life without depth, without meaning, without the opportunity to grow. Strength is not built in comfort. Resilience is not developed in ease. The most capable people, the wisest leaders, the most inspiring figures in history, all have been shaped by hardship. They have faced rejection, loss, failure, and suffering. Yet they did not let it destroy them. Instead, they allowed it to shape them into something greater. There is no shame in hardship. Many believe that struggling is a sign of weakness, that asking for help or admitting difficulty is failure. But the truth is the opposite. The strongest people are not those who never suffer, but those who face suffering with courage. They do not hide from their struggles, nor do they pretend to be unaffected. They acknowledge their pain but do not let it control them. They admit their difficulties but do not allow them to become excuses. They understand that hardship is not a mark of failure, but a necessary part of the journey. Endurance is a choice. No one can control every event in life. Misfortune, loss, and struggle come without warning. But what can be controlled is the response. A person can choose to see hardship as a final defeat or as a test to be overcome. They can choose to let pain make them bitter or allow it to make them stronger. They can choose to give up or to push forward. These choices define a person far more than their struggles ever could. The reality is that every hardship, no matter how painful, eventually passes. Even the deepest wounds heal. Even the greatest failures fade into lessons learned. The suffering that feels unbearable in the moment often becomes the foundation for greater resilience in the future. When looking back, many realize that their hardest moments were also their most transformative. The difficulties they once feared became the very experiences that shaped them into who they were meant to be. This is the nature of hardship. It is not the end, but a test. It is not an enemy, but a teacher. It is not a curse, but an opportunity. Those who resist it, who fear it, who allow it to define them, will struggle endlessly. But those who embrace it, who endure it, who rise above it, will discover a strength they never knew they had. In the face of hardship, there is always a choice, to see it as a reason to surrender or as a reason to grow. And those who choose growth will never be truly defeated. Inner strength is the greatest protection a person can possess. In a world full of uncertainty, hardship, and change, external security is never guaranteed. Wealth can be lost, relationships can fade, and even the strongest bodies can weaken. No fortress, no possession, and no amount of influence can shield a person from the challenges of life. But inner strength built through resilience, discipline, and self-awareness remains a constant source of protection. It is the foundation that allows a person to withstand adversity, navigate chaos, and remain unshaken in the face of uncertainty. True strength does not come from external circumstances. Many believe that security lies in material wealth, status, or control over others. They seek comfort in possessions, believing that financial stability will shield them from misfortune. They rely on the approval of others, hoping that validation will keep their self-worth intact. They seek to control everything around them, believing that if they can force the world to conform to their desires, they will be safe. But all these things are fragile. Money can be taken, reputations can be ruined, and the world will never bend perfectly to one's will. Those who depend on these things for protection will find themselves vulnerable when they fail. In contrast, those who cultivate inner strength are never truly without protection. They do not rely on the world to remain unchanged, nor do they expect life to be free from difficulty. They understand that challenges are inevitable, that losses will come, and that suffering is a part of existence. But rather than fearing these truths, they prepare themselves to face them. They do not seek to control the external world. Instead, they focus on mastering their own thoughts, emotions, and reactions. This is where true protection lies, not in changing the world to suit one's desires, but in becoming unshaken by the world's unpredictability. Inner strength is built through hardship. No one is born with it fully formed. It must be developed through experience. Every difficulty, every failure, every disappointment is an opportunity to strengthen oneself. Those who view challenges as unfair burdens waste their suffering, allowing it to make them weaker rather than stronger. But those who see hardship as a teacher grow in ways they never could have in comfort. They learn patience when things do not go their way. They learn resilience when they are knocked down. They learn self-discipline when they must endure pain without immediate relief. With each trial faced, their inner strength deepens. A person with true inner strength does not crumble under pressure. They do not panic when plans fall apart, nor do they lose themselves in despair when things do not go as expected. They remain steady because they have built their foundation on something unshakable, their own resilience. They do not need constant reassurance from others because they have learned to trust themselves. They do not fear solitude because they have developed a strong inner world. They do not break when criticized because their worth is not dependent on the opinions of others. This is what makes inner strength the greatest protection. It does not rely on external conditions. There are many who believe that protection comes from avoiding struggle. They seek to eliminate discomfort, choosing the easiest path whenever possible. But this approach only weakens them. A life without difficulty does not prepare a person for real challenges. Those who avoid struggle may seem comfortable for a time, but they remain fragile. The smallest difficulty shakes them. The slightest opposition discourages them. They crumble when faced with the very things they try to avoid. But those who embrace struggle, who see hardship as necessary for growth, become unbreakable. They welcome discomfort as a means of strengthening themselves. They understand that protection comes not from avoiding pain, but from learning to endure it. Inner strength is also the key to emotional stability. Many suffer not because of their circumstances, but because of their inability to control their thoughts and emotions. Fear, anger, and despair consume them, not because their situations are unbearable, but because they have not yet developed the ability to manage their inner world. The person who lacks emotional strength is at the mercy of every passing event. If they are praised, they feel worthy. If they are criticized, they feel worthless. If things go well, they are happy. If things go poorly, they are miserable. Their well-being is entirely dependent on forces outside their control. But those with inner strength do not live this way. They do not allow emotions to dictate their actions. They feel deeply, but they are not controlled by their feelings. They remain centered no matter what happens around them. The world is unpredictable. No one can guarantee that life will be free from suffering. No one can promise that misfortune will never strike. But what can be guaranteed is the ability to prepare oneself. Those who build inner strength do not need to live in fear of the future. They do not waste energy worrying about what might happen, because they trust their ability to handle whatever comes. They do not seek external protection, because they know that their greatest defense lies within themselves. They move through life with confidence, not because they believe everything will go their way, but because they know that even if it does not, they will endure. In the end, the strongest protection is not found in wealth, power, or status. It is not found in the approval of others or in the certainty of an easy life. It is found in the ability to remain steadfast in the face of hardship. It is found in the discipline to master one's mind and emotions. It is found in the resilience to rise after every fall. This is the greatest protection a person can have, the knowledge that no matter what happens, they are strong enough to face it. Life is full of challenges, struggles, and uncertainty. The world is not always fair, and suffering is an unavoidable part of the human experience. People face loss, disappointment, injustice, and hardships that test their endurance and resolve. In such times, it is easy to be consumed by negativity, to become cynical, or to withdraw from the world. But our duty is not to give in to the darkness around us, it is to be a source of light within it. It is to live in such a way that our presence makes a difference, that our actions bring hope, and that our strength inspires others. To be a light in darkness is not about pretending that hardship does not exist. It is not about ignoring pain, dismissing suffering, or living in denial. Instead, it is about choosing to respond differently. When the world is filled with despair, a light offers hope. When people are lost, a light provides direction. When fear takes over, a light reminds others that they are not alone. Being a light does not mean that one never struggles, never experiences pain, or never faces difficulties. It means that even in the midst of struggle, one chooses to rise above it, to help others, and to live with purpose. A person who is a light in darkness is one who carries themselves with integrity and courage. They do not allow circumstances to dictate their character. They remain honest even when dishonesty is easier. They remain kind even when surrounded by cruelty. They remain strong even when everything around them seems to be falling apart. In a world where it is tempting to follow the crowd, to blend in, or to compromise one's values, being a light means standing firm. It means holding on to principles even when others abandon them. The smallest act of kindness can be a light in someone's life. A word of encouragement, a moment of patience, or a simple gesture of understanding can make a difference far greater than one realizes. Many people carry burdens that are unseen, struggling with doubts, fears, and pains they do not speak of. A single act of kindness may be the light that helps them endure. Being a light is not about grand, heroic actions. It is about the daily choice to be compassionate, to be present, and to bring warmth into the lives of others. There are moments when the world feels overwhelming, when suffering seems endless, and when it is easy to question whether one person can truly make a difference. But darkness is not defeated by more darkness. Negativity does not heal negativity. The only way to push back against despair, injustice, or cruelty is by refusing to contribute to it. When faced with hatred, one can choose to respond with love. When faced with dishonesty, one can choose to remain truthful. When faced with hardship, one can choose to endure with dignity. To be a light requires strength. It is not always easy to do the right thing when others do not. It is not always easy to remain hopeful when everything seems uncertain. It is not always easy to continue being kind when the world feels harsh. But the true test of character is not how one behaves when times are easy, but how one carries themselves when times are difficult. The strongest people are not those who never struggle, but those who struggle and remain steadfast. Light does not exist for its own sake, it exists to illuminate. A candle does not burn for itself, it burns to provide warmth and visibility to others. In the same way, a person who chooses to be a light in the world does so not for recognition or reward, but because they understand that their purpose is greater than themselves. They understand that life is not just about what one gains, but about what one gives. Their strength is not just for their own survival, but to help others find their own strength. There is no shortage of reasons to be bitter, resentful, or indifferent. The world is filled with injustice, cruelty, and suffering. But to let these things define one's character is to give in to the very forces one wishes to resist. Strength is not found in apathy, it is found in choosing to be better despite what the world presents. It is found in the refusal to let hardship harden the heart, to let disappointment destroy hope, or to let pain turn into bitterness. Every person has a choice in how they live, in how they respond to difficulty, and in what kind of presence they bring into the world. Some choose to contribute to the darkness by spreading negativity, by tearing others down, or by living selfishly. Others choose to be a source of light by uplifting, by supporting, and by living with integrity. The difference is in the mindset, in the decision to see oneself not as a victim of the world, but as a force for good within it. To be a light in darkness does not require perfection. It does not mean never feeling doubt, never experiencing pain, or never making mistakes. It means continuing to try despite these things. It means recognizing that even small actions matter. A single candle may not eliminate the darkness of an entire room, but it provides enough light to see. In the same way, one person may not change the world entirely, but they can change the world for someone. They can be the difference that inspires another person to keep going, to believe in goodness, and to continue their own journey. There will always be darkness in the world. Struggles, suffering, and injustice will always exist. But this is why the duty to be a light is so important. It is not about ignoring darkness, but about refusing to be consumed by it. It is about showing that there is another way to live, one rooted in resilience, in kindness, and in purpose. It is about proving through actions rather than words that even in difficult times, goodness is still possible. Life is unpredictable, filled with uncertainties that no one can fully control. The future remains unknown, and no amount of speculation can change that reality. People often spend excessive time worrying about what might happen, analyzing every possible outcome, and fearing the unknown. They attempt to predict the future, hoping that by doing so they can avoid hardship or failure. However, speculation does not provide security. It only feeds anxiety and wastes valuable energy. The wise path is not to obsess over what might happen, but to prepare for whatever may come. Preparation, not speculation, is the key to resilience, stability, and success. Speculation is an endless cycle. The mind constantly seeks answers, imagining worst-case scenarios and crafting possible futures that may never come to pass. People convince themselves that if they think long enough about potential dangers, they can avoid them. However, this process rarely brings clarity. Instead, it leads to hesitation, fear, and paralysis. The more one speculates, the more uncertain everything appears. Doubt creeps in, decisions become delayed, and opportunities slip away. Speculation creates the illusion of control but offers none in reality. It is a distraction that keeps people from taking meaningful action. Preparation, on the other hand, is grounded in action. Rather than wasting time guessing what the future holds, preparation focuses on strengthening oneself to handle any outcome. It is the difference between a sailor worrying about a storm and a sailor ensuring their ship is ready to face rougher waters. The storm may or may not come, but a well-prepared vessel can endure it if it does. Similarly, a person who focuses on preparation builds skills, strengthens their mindset, and develops resilience, making them capable of handling challenges as they arise. Preparation is practical. It acknowledges that uncertainty exists but does not allow it to cause inaction. Instead of worrying about job security, one builds skills that make them valuable in any career. Instead of fearing financial instability, one saves money and makes wise investments. Instead of obsessing over potential crises, one maintains good health, strong relationships, and a disciplined mindset. These actions provide real security, while speculation provides only stress. The world is full of unexpected changes. Economic downturns, personal setbacks, and unforeseen events can disrupt even the best-laid plans. Those who rely on speculation attempt to predict these changes, but they are often caught off guard. Those who rely on preparation, however, remain steady no matter what happens. They do not crumble under pressure because they have built a strong foundation. They do not panic when the unexpected occurs because they have developed the ability to adapt. They may not know exactly what the future holds, but they are ready for it. Fear often drives speculation. The mind seeks certainty as a way to avoid discomfort. It creates endless what-if scenarios, convincing people that they must have answers before taking action. But certainty is a luxury that does not exist. No one can guarantee what will happen tomorrow, next month, or next year. The only real certainty is that change is inevitable. Those who accept this truth shift their focus from predicting the future to preparing for it. They understand that strength, adaptability, and wisdom are far more valuable than any attempt at prediction. A person who embraces preparation develops a mindset of readiness. They understand that setbacks will come, so they cultivate resilience. They know that difficulties are unavoidable, so they strengthen their ability to endure. They do not allow fear to dictate their actions because they trust in their own ability to respond effectively. This mindset removes the need for endless speculation. It replaces worry with confidence and hesitation with decisive action. Preparation requires discipline. It is easy to fall into the trap of speculation because it feels productive. Sitting and thinking about potential problems can create the illusion of problem solving. But true problem solving happens through action. It happens when people take steps to improve themselves, to strengthen their skills, and to prepare for challenges. Discipline means choosing to act rather than overthink. It means training the mind to focus on what can be done, rather than on what might happen. Success, stability, and peace of mind come from preparation, not from endless analysis. Those who prepare are never truly unprepared, no matter what life brings. They trust in their ability to adapt, knowing that they have done everything within their power to be ready. They do not waste energy fearing the unknown, because they have built themselves into people who can handle adversity. Ultimately, speculation is a habit that drains energy, while preparation is an investment that builds strength. The choice is clear: worry about the future without taking action, or prepare for the future by building resilience, knowledge, and readiness. Those who choose preparation over speculation will always be ready for whatever life may bring. The future will always remain uncertain, but that is not something to fear, it is something to prepare for. No amount of speculation can change what is to come, but the actions taken today can determine how one faces tomorrow. Strength is not found in predicting every possibility, but in building the resilience to handle any challenge. Those who waste time worrying will remain paralyzed by uncertainty, while those who prepare will move forward with confidence. The choice is clear: to dwell on the unknown or to take control of what can be controlled. In the end, life does not reward those who guess the future, it rewards those who are ready for it.